This is going to be a very beginner-friendly guide for Protection Warrior in patch 11.0.5. Hello, my name is Javier and I do every single spec in WoW for beginners. If this video is helpful for you, please click that subscribe button as it really helps support grow the channel so that I can do more guides like this for you. So, this is my Protection Warrior. I do want to say that we are using Mountain Fane hero talents here for both the single target and the multi-target or more AoE and Mythic plus build of this guide, okay? We'll be going through those a bit shortly. Few things to note that are very specific to warriors here. If we go to character info, one thing, we want a higher and higher eye level of gear because that gives us more strength, which improves our parry chance, basically so we could dodge, and also how much damage we do. It's also going to give us more health and armor. We have a lot of extra stats as a tank, but you don't really need to worry about them. Leech, dodge, parry, and block, etc. We have crit, meaning we can do more damage, and of course increases our parry chance as well. Haste, we do things quicker. Mastery is very interesting. It increases your chance to block for the more mastery we have, and your chance to critically block, which is basically blocking twice the amount as well, and increases our attack power and therefore how much damage we do. Lastly, versatility increases damage and healing done and reduces damage taken. So you may hear about, which stats do you need more, etc. If you are a true beginner, then what I would say is just worry about getting a higher eye level of gear. And if you're a bit more of a knowledgeable player, should we say, a bit more seasoned player, then I would always recommend that you simulate your character. And if you don't know what that means, you're probably too much of a beginner to care, or should be too much of a beginner to care. Simulating your character basically is going to be seeing which piece of gear is better than the other based on the stats that you currently have and the stat weighting. Before we go into combat, there's a few other things. Down here we have our stances. Defensive stance reduces all damage we take by 16%. If you are taking a high amount of damage, if you're doing high level content, then defensive stance will often be the way to go. If you want to do some more damage, however, you can go into battle stance. When we're going into combat, there's something we want to do before, and that is use our battle shout. This will increase our attack power and also the attack power of our allies in our raid or party. Okay, we're now ready to go into combat. How do we open combat? Well, we're going to charge using our charge ability. Charge to an enemy, dealing damage and generating 20 rage. What is rage, you may ask? That is this bar you can see filling up as I attack. That is our main resource as a warrior. Our auto attacks and some of our other abilities will be generating rage, and some of them will be spending rage. I'm using a weak aura here in the center. You can do something similar if you want to see all your sort of cooldowns, etc. in one place. And if you would like to get the entire UI, that's available on my Patreon. So from left to right, this is our priority list on our abilities. Left here is our top priority, and on the right is our lowest priority. So the first thing we're going to do is Ravager and Avatar. We're generally going to use these together, and the reason is they are both on a 1.5 minute cooldown, so they can be used simultaneously almost. Ravager. Throw a whirling blade, so you can actually designate the location here, and you can use this as you start combat as well. So we throw a whirling blade at the target location that chases nearby enemies, dealing damage to all enemies within over 10 seconds. And it generates 10 rage every time it deals damage. Whereas Avatar increases our size and means that we do more damage while it lasts, and that is for 20 seconds. Cool. So use those on cooldown, use them as you go into combat. After that, we want to use our shield block. So you are using a one-handed weapon and a shield as a protection warrior. Raise your shield, blocking all melee attacks against you for 8 seconds. These blocks can be critical blocks and increases shield slam damage by 30% while active. So that is shield block. The ability that it increases the damage of is this one down here, shield slam. More on that shortly. So after we use our shield block, we then want to use our demoralizing shout. And we want to use this on cooldown, so as often as possible. Demoralizes enemies, reducing how much damage they deal to you by 25%. So rather than blocking damage or anything like that. We're just simply reducing how much damage the enemy does to us, which is amazing. Now we're going to look at how. So all of these abilities, shield block uses rage, demoralizing shout generates rage, but the main way we're going to be using our actual rage is on ignore pain. It's only on a 1 second cooldown, so pretty much instantly. And as you can see, we're maxed out on rage here. The main way you're going to be spending it is on ignore pain. Fight through the pain, ignoring 50% of damage taken, up to a 1.2 million total damage prevented. And you basically want to use this to avoid capping out on your rage like we are here. So we use this, you can see, at about maybe 80 to 100 rage, just making sure that we're not going over and ignoring that pain. After that, we want to use our Champion's Spear on cooldown. And this is also on a 1.5 minute cooldown. Generally, you're going to be using this with Shield Charge and also our Ravager and Avatar here, okay? So I know that these are higher priority in the middle, but when you are using these cooldowns, do use your Champion's Spear with it and also Shield Charge. Shield Charge is only on a 45-second cooldown, so you can use 2 Shield Charges for every 1 Champion's Spear, Avatar, and Ravager. If this is starting to sound overwhelming, don't worry. I'm going to go through this a few times and split it out, etc. So Shield Charge, we charge an enemy with your shield, dealing damage to all enemies nearby, and stuns our target and generates some rage. So let's just recap on where we are, because you may also notice there's a gap here, and then we've got Thunderclap, okay? So, again, go into combat with your charge, and then use your Ravager, your Avatar, use your shield block, your demoralizing shout, and don't cap on rage by using ignore pain. Use your Champion's Spear on cooldown with your shield charge and your other cooldowns. Pretty simple, actually, when you put it like that. Now you'll notice that we have our Thunderclap there had changed to a different spell. Well, we're only using the Thunderclap here if we have 2 or more targets. Basically, if we have multiple targets, we're going to use Thunderclap. This rotation I'm showing you is for both single target and multi-target. It's all just one rotation for both, which is really nice for Protection Warriors. It is 2 different builds. We're going to change builds for Mythic Plus. However, the actual rotation is the same. Now, this talent here in our hero talents, Thunderblast, Shield, Slam, and Bloodthirst have a chance to grant you Thunderblast. Thunderblast stacking up to 2 times. This is going to change your Thunderclap into a Thunderblast that deals more damage. We're only using Thunderclap here when it is actually turned into a Thunderblast. And that is going to look like this. So when you see it with a ribbon around it and it changes the icon, Thunderblast, use it at this point in the priority list, but only with 2 or more targets. If not, continue on down. We've already spoken about Shield Charge, and now we have Shield Slam. We're going to use this as a fairly low priority down here, but on cooldown. After that, we're going to use our Thunderclap on cooldown. And if you're thinking, well, Javier, you just told me to only use it with 2 or more targets when it's Thunderblast. That is correct, and that is at this point in the rotation, or the priority list. If you're getting down to this point in the priority list, then we can just use Thunderclap or Thunderblast, whatever it is, on cooldown. After that, we're going to use Revenge. Pretty much getting to the point now where we've got nothing much else to press. So Revenge, swinging a wide arc, dealing damage to all enemies in front of you, deals reduced damage beyond 5 targets, and this is pretty much your filler ability at the end. Your successful dodges and parries have a chance to make your next Revenge cost no rage. And then use Execute whenever you can as your lowest priority. This is only usable on enemies of 20% or less health. Let's recap this again. Charge into battle, use your Ravager, Avatar, and Champion's Spear on cooldown, and use your Shield Charge with your cooldowns. Use Shield Block on cooldown. Remember that increases the damage of your Shield Slam by 30%. Use Demoralizing Shout on cooldown. Use Ignore Pain to spend your Rage and make sure you don't cap on Rage. Then use Thunderblast whenever it is a Thunderblast in AoE situations. Use Shield Slam on cooldown. Use Thunderclap or Blast at this point on cooldown. And then if you've got nothing else to press, use Revenge, okay? And then Execute whenever you can as a lowest priority. Cool. And that is the rotation. Now let's have a look at the talents that bring it all together. So we're going to start off in the single target build and look at the important talents. There's Strategist here. Thunderclap and Revenge and Execute have a chance to reset the remaining cooldown on Shield Slam, which is really nice. Using Shield Slam increases the damage of Shield Slam by 5% for 16 seconds. So when you use it again, it's going to do more damage. And increases the block value of your shield by 3%, and that can stack to 5 times. Passively happening, but good to know. We have Sudden Death here. You may see this proc sometimes on your Execute. Your attacks have a chance to make your next Execute cost no rage and be usable on a target of any percentage of health, not just 20% or under. Brutal Vitality here. 10% of the damage you deal actually adds to your active Ignore Pain. That's a really good way of actually getting rid of more damage. Every 10 rage you spend, also, on Ignore Pain and things like that, every 10 rage you spend reduces the remaining cooldown of Avatar and Shield Wall by a second. Fantastic, so we can get those off cooldown even quicker. Every 20 rage you spend here heals you for a percentage of maximum health. Again, passive, but good to know. Demoralizing Shout also generates 30 rage and increases damage you deal to affected targets by 20%. So it's not just now reducing how much damage they deal to us, it's also increasing how much damage we deal to them. Cool. Let's just talk through Mountain Fane here, because it is interesting. Lightning Strikes is the main keystone talent we unlock. Damaging enemies with Thunderclap, Revenge, or Execute has a chance to also strike with a Lightning Bolt, dealing damage and generating rage. Storm Strike or Nature damage, your abilities deal is increased, and Storm Strike damage ignores armor. If you're thinking, is this affecting the rotation anyway? This is all built in. Lightning Strikes also deal damage to enemies near their target. Shield Slam damage increased. Demoralizing Shout reduces damages enemies deal to you by an additional amount. They're all quite passive. Thunder Blast also reduces how much damage you take. That's interesting to know. Lightning Strikes have a chance to make your next 2 Shield Slams have no cooldown. Again, happening passively. If you follow the rotation, it's already built in, but good to know. And then lastly down here, Avatar of the Storm. Casting Avatar grants you 2 charges of Thunder Blast and resets the cooldown on Thunderclap. While Avatar is not active, Lightning Strikes have a 10% chance to grant you Avatar for 4 seconds. And your next Thunderclap becomes... with Thunder Blast, your next Thunderclap becomes a Thunder Blast that deals Storm Strike damage. So it's all passive with the Mountain Fane hero talents, but really useful to know. Let's just go into the Mythic Plus build and see what's changing. There's not really many changing over here. This spell we're getting is Utility Spell. Defensive Stance additionally reduces magic damage you take. We've got damage from your bleed effects, have a chance to grant you some rage, etc. There's not much happening. Lastly, I just want to talk around some of the cooldowns and defensives, etc. that we can use. We have Berserker Rage here, removing and granting immunity to Fear, Sap, and Incapacitate. More so used in PvP, but sometimes you may use this in PvE, and it's good to know. And what I would recommend is just going through all of your abilities and talents once you're more comfortable with the rotation, just to see how things kind of come together, if you will. Hamstring will slow your enemy. This is really useful. Heroic Leap, you can basically leap across the battlefield to somewhere else, and this is a really good way of getting around and doing damage at the same time if you need to get from A to B. Let me show you it. It's not like, crazy, but look, you can go all this way, just like that. Getting out the fire, getting to somewhere else, it can be really useful. Impending Victory on 25-second cooldown. It does some damage, but that's not why we're really using it. It heals you for 20% of your maximum health. This is interesting. Intervene. Run at a high speed towards an ally, intercepting all melee and range attacks against them for 6 seconds. Pummel. So important, okay? Especially if you're a beginner here and you haven't played WoW for that long. Pummel is an interrupt to the enemy spellcasting. Interrupting your enemy spellcasting is so important. This is probably the most underrated thing that beginners miss out on, and even seasoned players, I often find, do not interrupt enough. It's on a 15-second cooldown. You should be interrupting as much as possibly, as physically possible, and your party members, etc., will love you, and they will hate you if you don't do this. Okay, interrupting spellcasting can be a live or die situation. Rallying Cry can temporarily increase allies' health. Shockwave, we only have this in the Mythic Plus build. You can basically damage and stun all enemies within front of you. Oh, Taunt. Oh my god, I can't believe I've not mentioned Taunt. If a mob is attacking a different enemy and a different ally, you can taunt it to attack you. It's only on an 8-second cooldown. You can use this a lot. It's one of every tank's, biggest toolkit items. Then we have Challenging Shout on a 2-minute cooldown. If things have really gotten out of control, you can taunt all enemies within 10 yards to attack you. Last Stand increases your maximum health by 30% for 15 seconds and heals you for that amount. That's really useful again for health. We have Shield Wall, reduces all damage you take by 40 seconds. So there is a lot. And there's also Spell Block, where you can also then block spells for 30 seconds. There is a lot of utilities we have as a warrior, protection warrior even, etc. The rotation isn't too onerous, I wouldn't say. It's fairly easy for a beginner to pick up out of all the tank specs, with things like Brewmaster probably being a lot harder. If you would like to see other specs, you can click on the playlist. You'll shortly see on screen as I do every spec. If you want to get this UI custom made by me, this is on my Patreon, and that helps really support the channel. Details profiles, LVUI profiles, I can help you install it all, etc. if you like the look of this UI. This here is a weak aura that you can get for warriors. There's loads of them available. Check those out. And with Patreon as well, I can actually help you review your logs. We have a VIP channel in Discord where you can ask any questions, etc. And I always prioritize anyone asking them in there. Of course, no question too big nor too small. And please, if you did enjoy this video, leave a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and leave any comments down below.